Duterte, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully, conscientiously fulfill my duties. Let us not despair. The vaccine is around the corner. We will not stop until we get things right and better for you.
Magandang hapon, Pilipinas. Ito po ang News 5 special coverage sa huling State of the Nation address ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Ako po si Ed Lingao.
Ako naman po si Mean Los Baños. Live niyo po kaming napapanood sa TV5 at naka-livestream din po kami sa News 5 Facebook page at sa YouTube channel. Sir Ed?
Okay. Sabi nga ng konstitusyon, every last Monday ng Hulyo, kailangan mag-report ang Pangulo sa Kongreso at higit sa lahat sa publiko kung ano nangyari sa nakaraang taon at anong susunod.
I guess what's different right now, Sir Ed, is that hindi lang last year ni Pangulo yung ire-report niya. Yung buong administrasyon niya na ito.
Yeah,
ito na to.
yeah.
Mukhang, so in-expect natin, ay, kung naalala mo, Sir Ed, diba? Yung kay Pinoy noon na huling Sona niya, umabot ng higit 2 oras. So expect natin medyo mahaba-haba
So may imagine mo dyan na pag-uusapan, well, siyempre pandemic,
yes,
pag-usapan dyan, maaaring politika dahil election year na next year.
May mga kinakabahan na baka daw mapangalanan ng Pangulo, baka may mawakwak daw ng mga ilang politiko.
Kasi nakaraang mga Sona, meron siya parating pinapangalanan.
Yes.
Ewan natin kung this year, ganun din, o baka magbago ng pangalan. Tingnan natin. Of course, and also, yung nakaraang 5 taon, di ba? You're looking at possibly the highlights of the last 5 years.
Basically, report niya ng kanyang achievements, Sir Ed, talaga for the past 5 years. And tama ka, Sir Ed, yung roadmap, yun ang hinihintay ng tao dyan. What's next? Meron ka pa namang 10 buwan. May 10 buwan pa siya.
Hindi, iniisip mo kasi 10 buwan na trabaho yan. Hindi naman nakapagtrabaho ang Kongreso ng buo pag-election year.
Oo, hanggang October na lang.
Ang sabi nga ng iba, 5 buwan na lang siguro, hanggang 7 buwan ng trabaho ng Kongreso because of elections. Sa mga kampanya ng
COC
mga
filing.
Okay, yan po, inaabangan na ngayon ng sambayan ng Pilipino ang magiging laman ng huling State of the Nation address ni Pangulong Duterte mamayang hapon. At para po sa update, makibalita tayo live mula sa Malacanang sa Maynila si Maricel Halili. Mase, nakaalis na ba dyan sa palasyo ang ating Pangulo?
Kinaantabayanan pa natin kung nakaalis na nga ang Pangulong Duterte mula dito sa Malacanang. Kanina, sinabi ng kanyang long-time aide at ngayon senador na si Bongo na manggagaling nga sa bahay pagbabago ang Pangulong Duterte. At mula doon ay didiretso siya sa Batasang Pambansa sakay ng helicopter. Pero syempre nakadepende yan sa lagay ng panahon dito sa Malacanang. Medyo malakas ang hangin Pero ang initial plan nila via helicopter ang sasakyan ng Pangulong Duterte. Bibigyan ko lamang kayo ng aasahan nating senaryo mamaya sa Batasang Pambansa base dun sa programa na ibinigay sa atin ng Malacanang. Mga bandang 3:55 in the afternoon, inaasahan na yung mga guest ay didiretso na doon sa mismong session hall at ang Secretary General ay anunsyo na ang pagdating ng Pangulong Duterte kasabayan ng pagtunog ng entrance hymn. Dadaan ang Pangulong Duterte sa center aisle bago dumiretso sa south stairs patungo sa lower rostrum. Siyempre, kagaya ng nakaugalian, makakasama dito ng Pangulong Duterte ang House Speaker na ngayon ay si Lord Alan Velasco at si Senate President Tito Soto. Sisimulan ang programa sa pamamagitan ng pag-call to order ng Senate President at ng House Speaker. Susundan ito ng pag-awit ng Philippine National Anthem. Gaya nga ng nasabi ng PCOO, ang kakanta ng National Anthem natin ngayon sa Sona ay si Morissette Amon na accompanied by Philharmonic Orchestra. Susundan ito ng Nation's Prayer bago ipapakilala ni Speaker Velasco ang Pangulong Duterte para sa kanyang kahuli-hulihang State of the Nation address. Sabi kanina ni PCOO Secretary Martin Andanar, dun sa pinakahuling rehearsal ng Pangulong Duterte, inabot ng mga more or less 1 hour yung talumpati ng Pangulong Duterte. Yan ay kung magiging faithful si President Duterte dito sa kanyang script, sa kanyang last Sona. Because as we all know, medyo mahilig ang Pangulong Duterte na mag-adlib. Kung nung nakaraang taon, inabot ng more or less 2 hours yung kanyang Sona. So tingnan natin. Pero ang sinasabi ni Secretary Roque, ang lalamanin syempre ng Sona ngayon ay kung ano yung mga nagawa ng Pangulo sa nakalipas na 5 taon. Summary nung nangyari sa administrasyon at kung ano yung aasahan pa this year. Of course, aasahan natin na masagot yung what and where are we now. Tinanong kung mababanggit ba ng Pangulo yung tungkol sa kanyang political plan. Sabi ni Secretary Roque, mukhang hindi. Pero di natin alam kasi pwede pa rin talagang mag-adlib ang Pangulo. Ang initial daw na haba ng Sona ni Presidente, nasa 1 hour and 20 minutes Pero mukhang naka-4 na revisions, nasa 1 hour na ngayon kung magiging faithful siya sa script. Bok?
Mase, si Mean nito, ako dun lang ako sa higpitan ng guests pagdating sa batasang pambansa bilang 350 lang yung pinapayagan dyan. Nakuha ko tong information na to kay Senator Bongo. Tama pa rin ba to hanggang ngayon? Yung mga cabinet secretaries daw hati, meron sa batasang pambansa, meron sa Rizal Hall, sa Palasyo. Ganun pa rin ba o hindi na?
Tama, Mean. Yung ibang mga cabinet secretaries, sa ngayon, ang alam natin na pupunta sa Kongreso, sina Secretary Harry Roque. Kanina sinabi rin ni Secretary Martin Andanar na pupunta siya doon. Pero yung ibang mga cabinet secretaries nasa Rizal Hall, dito sa Malacanang, doon sila manonood virtually ng huling State of the Nation address ng Pangulong Duterte. Dahil nga between 300 to 400 guests lang yung allowed na makapasok sa loob. Kahit tayong media, hindi tayo pinayagan. Kaya nandito tayo sa Malacanang at manonood rin lang tayo ng Sona virtually. So very limited. Kagaya nung nabanggit nila, kailangan pa rin sumailalim ng antigen test. Pero si President Duterte daw, dito na sa bahay ng pagbabago, sasailalim doon sa mga routine ng antigen test at saka yung kanyang health declaration, pag-check ng mga symptoms before proceeding to batasang pambansa.
Mase, well, nabanggit mo kanina yung maaring pag-usapan ng Pangulo at least in terms of yung summary, for example, ng last 5 years. Pero moving forward, may idea ba tayo kung ano yung mga gusto pang itulak na prioridad ng Pangulo going into his last year? Kasi nga, napag-usapan namin kanina niya na medyo maiksi na yung panahon at election year pa ito, so malamang sa hindi, marami mag-absent na mga congressman at hindi mo mabubuo talaga the months leading up to the election. Hindi mabubuo ng Kongreso yan So, any idea kung ano yung mga gustong itulak ng Pangulo for 2021 going to 2022?
Bok, ang initial na pahayag dyan ni Secretary Roque, ipupush pa rin niya yung kanyang mga priority bills. So ipapanawagan niya particularly yung sa mga economic recovery kasi as we all know, malaki talaga yung dagok ng pandemic doon sa estado ng ekonomiya sa Pilipinas. So isa yan sa ipupush ni President Duterte. Kaya nga sinasabi rin ng mga legislators, sinasabi ng Malacanang, kailangan matapos ng mga legislators itong mga priority bills na to within the year, hanggang ngayon 2021. Kasi by next year, baka mas maging busy na yung mga mambabatas when it comes doon sa mga kampanya kasi syempre election season na. So sana daw matapos sila within the year. Ilalatag rin daw ng Pangulong Duterte yung ating roadmap, particularly doon sa ano pa ba yung mga plano natin doon sa COVID-19 response. As we all know, marami na rin naman ang mga pumapasok na bakuna ngayon pero mukhang kulang pa because meron pa rin tayong threat ng mga bagong COVID variant. So kabilang yan. Sasabihin din o inaasahan din na i-discuss ni President Duterte doon sa mga infrastructure project natin. Totoo ba na naging golden age tayo ng infrastructure ngayon at naging successful ba talaga yung ating build program? So kabilang yan doon sa mga inaasahan aside doon sa mga accomplishments ng administration.
Okay, mula sa Malacanang, maraming salamat Maricel Halili.
Samantala, kahit may banta po ng COVID-19, hindi nagpatinag ang mga militanteng grupo sa pagdaraos ng kilos protesta para sa huling Sona ni Pangulong Duterte. Live mula sa Commonwealth Avenue sa Quezon City, si Romel Lopez. Romel, nasusunod pa ba ang health protocol dyan?
Yes, update nga lang sa'yo. Kita mo, maayos na dito sa aking likuran. Pagkat after lunch, mga past 1 in the afternoon, ay kusa nang nag-disperse yung nasa 2,000 militante na pumunta dito sa area kanina. Pinangungunahan niya ng mga grupong Bayan, Bayan Muna, Anak Pawis, Kadamay, Gabriela. Sila nga yung libo-libo nating mga kababayan na maaga pa lamang ay nung unay nagpunta yan sa UP Doon sila nagdaos ng kanilang kilos protesta. Saka naman nagmarcha rito before lunch. Pupunta sa area na ito ng Tandang Sora. Kanina nagkaroon ng bagyang komosyon, nang hindi kaagad palapitin dito sa area ito yung mga militante. Pagkat nais ng mga militante na mas malawak na linya ng kalsada yung maibigay sa kanila, pati yung orange na barrier pinagtalunan pa kanina. Pero kung sa tanong mo kung nasusunod ba yung minimum health protocols, yun ang nakakalungkot. Napansin natin, Mayan, all throughout, sa UP pa lang hanggang dito, ay napapansin natin na talagang maraming militante ang hindi sumusunod sa mga minimum health protocols. Hindi suot ng ayos yung face mask, walang face shield. Yung iba nga talaga, hindi suot yung kanilang mga face mask. Kinausap natin si NCRPO Chief Vicente Danao, ukol dyan. Nagpapatupad nga lang daw sila ng maximum tolerance para maiwasan yung mga komusyon, kaya wala silang inaresto kanina. Pero so far yung kanilang assessment sa pagdaraos ng mga kilos protesta dito sa area ito ng Commonwealth ay generally peaceful and orderly naman daw, Mayan.
Alright. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Romy Lopez.
Magbabalik po ang special coverage ng News 5 sa State of the Nation address ni Pangulong Duterte. Kung ang resulta ng mga survey ang pagbabasehan, si Pangulong Duterte na raw ang pinakapopular na naging presidente ng Pilipinas pagkatapos ng Reming Marcos at ng martial law.
Sa kabila ng ingay at mga issue, paano nga ba napanatili ni Pangulong Duterte ang popularidad niya kahit malapit nang matapos ang kanyang termino? Yan ang pag-uusapan natin kasama ang ating panel ngayong hapon. Bokha, unay ang CEO and founder ng Publicis Asia at political strategist na si Ms. Malu Tikia. Makikihimay din sa mga issue ang law professor ng University of the Philippines at political analyst na si Attorney Tony Lavinia.
At kasama rin natin ngayon ang founder at managing director ng Stratbase Group na si Professor Dindo Manhit at ang political commentator na si Attorney Trixie Angeles. Magandang hapon sa inyong apat at maraming salamat sa inyong pagdalo.
Good afternoon po.
Magandang hapon.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Dindo and Malu, thank you for joining us. Tayo ulit. Well, we'd like to begin. I'd like to begin with this. Of course, we are ending. We are going to the last year ng Pangulong Duterte with very high, remarkably high ratings and numbers that we have never seen before. What accounts for this? I know you've answered this in other programs, but specifically for our viewers in TV5, ano po ang dahilan sa matataas na mga numero ng Pangulo? Ito po ba is it a communication issue? Is it an issue of deliverables and so on down the line? Ano po? Sinong gusto mana? Dapat kayo nagkahiya. Let's begin. Ladies first. Let's begin with either Malu or Trixie.
Trixie. Yeah.
Si Miss Malu muna.
Okay. Sa akin, the high approval and high trust is a reflection of his, since day one, always in campaign mode. There is such a thing as presidential speech, and there's such a thing as campaigning almost every day. If you try to analyze his speech, part of it is policy, part of it is something directed to his base, and part of it is reminding everyone that, oh, ito, nakulong yan ha, o ito. Kung titingnan mo, sustained yung effort to really tell everyone, remember what happened to this. So hindi nawawala sa gitna ang usapan tuwi siya nagsasalita.
That's interesting, huh? Always in campaign mode. Is that deliberate sa inyong pananaw?
My sense is yes.
Yes. Can I come in?
Yes, Tony. Yes, sir. Dean Tony.
If you follow the career of Mayor Duterte from day one, it was always like that, di ba? It was always like that. Dito lang nga, we don't see him yung kanyang whole day TV program, di ba? But the point has always been to to feed something to the base and to attack perceived enemies, di ba? But unfortunately, yan din ang result din dyan usually, that has an impact on governance and your long-term consequences of the work that we do.
Sudutan ko lang na isang tanong.
Sige po.
Months leading to the elections, mataas yung ratings ng Pangulo. Of course, hindi naman ito exactly buong maililipat niya doon sa kung sining anointed one niya. Pero gaano ho kalaki yung tulong niyan sa kung sino man yung kanyang mapipili para sa 2022 elections, whether it's Mayor Sara, Senator Bongo, Isko Moreno, or who knows, Manny Pacquiao? Gaano ho kalaki ang maitutulong niyan, yung mataas na ratings ng Pangulo?
First, popular
Yes, sir,
president will always be a boost to whoever he endorses, but it would depend on where his popularity is come election time also.
I don't think so.
When Malu raised the issue on the idea of communication, it's really important that since 2016, we have not seen the end of what I call the political campaign. Not that how they shape the narrative, how they try to push their agenda, which is good from a governance point of view. But sabi nga ni Tito minsan, that's where it fails naman on an actual capacity to govern, as I've said in your other shows earlier, that there's a disconnect between the data that we see in the press releases of Pulse Asia and the full survey that they conduct, whereby the president is now below, the administration, not the president, is now below 60 or 50% even in some key issues like the economy. So the question is, will it carry come election time, or will some of these issues become a strong issue against the candidate of the president?
But what about yung negative issues naman against President Duterte? Will it also affect yung kanyang anointed one? For example, weak stance on West Philippine Sea, EJK, makaka-apekto din ba yan sa kanyang mamanokin sa 2022 elections?
Depending on the framing of the issues of whoever that other side is, how they'll frame the issue, of course, they'll try to look for the weakness, kahinaan ng Pangulo. Baka doon nila titingnan yon. But right now, ang lumalabas na weak area is really the continuing economic consequence of this public health crisis. So how that will be addressed by both sides, the administration and opposition, or whoever the candidate is, will define how the elections will be.
All right. Okay.
Can I come in on that?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah,
Sir Tony Lavinas.
Of course, I'll bow to Malu's wisdom here because that's really her. This is the kind of thing she does. No? But sa elections kasi natin, I think the more than popularity of the president, it's the incumbency that matters. Diba? That he's the incumbent president, and that the resources of the government can be used and has always been used for whoever he endorses. Sa tingin mas importante yan kaysa popularity. I think in the elections, what's more important, unfortunately, not even the issues. It's really how you campaign. Diba? I mean, President Duterte didn't have money, didn't have any political machinery, didn't have anyone, and I would say even that the issues were not necessarily, diba, he was just, in most things, he was just following what everyone else was saying. May signature issue lang siya, yung drugs, diba? But other than that, but he was a very good campaigner. At talagang magaling. So sa tingin ko, it really matters. I don't know who else will be. Kay Pacquiao, it matters if Pacquiao turns out to be a really good campaigner, lalo na kung manalo siya sa kanyang boxing match. And then mag-victory parade siya the next 6 months in every place in town. And compelling yung kanyang kwento. Compelling yung kwento niya, pero he communicate that in a compelling way. Isko Moreno has the perfect compelling story and lots of good ideas. Can he share that? Diba, the way na si President Duterte shared it? That matters in my view. It doesn't matter how many politicians you have on your side. Doesn't matter, diba, in the end. Na kung walang ganoon, di patas na. Di mas maganda yung incumbent, mas maganda yung popular, mas maganda yung endorsement, ganyan. Pero kung may kandidato ka that captures the imagination of the people,
Alright.
goodbye na yung lahat ng mga yun kasi immaterial yun, in my view.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to bring in Attorney Trixie, pero Attorney Trixie, before I bring you in, sundot lang sabi ni Dean Tony. Yes po, di ba, incumbency really does matter, pero also curiously, when you look at the post-EDSA administrations, if I remember right, isa lang yung nanalo na sinuportahan ng nakarang administrasyon. That was Cory going to Ramos. The other administrations, puro parati opposition yung nanalo po. I don't know lang how that factors into everything eh. So how significant po would the incumbency be in the post-EDSA elections?
Sige, Attorney Trixie na. Sige. Go
Ay,
ahead.
sa akin yan.
Go ahead.
Wala. Whoever. Sige,
We're
Trixie.
talking about endorsement power and plus incumbency, no? Without going into presidential candidates, looking at the senatorials, for example, I agree with Dean Tony that the candidate really matters. For example, Sec. Art Tugade, Sec. Mark Villar, people who are in the cabinet. It seems that the supporters of the president appear to support them also. But not all the candidates who seem to be coming out to be in the president's slate, they don't appear to be doing well. polling wise, di ba? So the candidate really and truly matters. So what if you're looking at the sitting cabinet members, of course, Sec Art and Sec Villar, they matter, but they matter because they seem to have appeared to, well, not just capture the imagination, but people honestly believe that they have done something quite tangible. And this resonates more, probably more even than the president's endorsement. I think the president's endorsement might matter with the presidential candidates, but with the senatorials, it seems to me that the people have made up their minds or are already making up their minds regardless of the president's endorsement.
All right. Nakakabitin. Pero pansamantala po nating puputulin ang talakayan. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang News 5 special coverage sa ika-6 na State of the Nation address ni Pangulong Duterte. Diyan lamang po kayo. Nagbabalik po ang News 5 special coverage sa huling Sona ni Pangulong Duterte at kasama pa rin natin ang ating panel. Okay, kayo na nabitin tayo, Boka, no? Ikaw ang may tanong
Sige
may
po.
tanong ka pa
Oo.
kanina.
May nilabas, sa ating mga panahon ngayon, may nilabas kanina yung Pulse Asia na survey niya noong July, first 2 weeks of July, dun sa kung ano yung gusto makita ng mga publiko na mga topic na pag-uusapan ng Pangulo sa kanyang Sona. Notable dito, sa first 5, 4 sa kanila ay tungkol sa ekonomiya. Number 1, jobs, livelihood. Number 2, economy. Number 3, inflation. Number 4, vaccination. At number 5, salaries. So, ang tanong ko po sa inyo, nagbago ba o gaano kalaki ang pinagbago ng mga prioridad ng mga Pilipino nitong panahon ng pandemya doon sa, for example, sa hinahanap nilang gusto nilang talakayan ng Pangulo dito sa kanyang Sona. Kasi dito, number 10 ng illegal drugs, yung pet project ng Pangulo, at number 12 yung amending ng Constitution. Bumaba talaga siya kumpara doon sa iba. Sa ating mga panauhin, sino gusto mauna?
Sa tingin ko, Bok, malaking
Miss Malu.
pinagbago yan. Kasi makikita natin na yung pandemic ang nagde-define ng lahat nating decision these days. So even the governance aspect, even the budget aspect is being defined by how we manage the pandemic. So susundot lang ako doon sa sinabi ni Tony, yung incumbency. Makikita natin itong halalan sa 2022 will really be a power of the incumbents. Bakit? Kasi kung wala ka during the pandemic, hindi ka nakatulong, walang saysay yung pagiging incumbent mo. Pero kung ikaw ay nararamdaman ng tao at nakikita ka at nag-aaruga ka, yung pagiging incumbent is napakahalaga. Oo, at ayon rin sa COMELEC, ang pagde-decide ng local campaigns will be done by the incumbents, even the barangay. Yung dun sa tanong ng endorsement, I think the President has to a large extent around 20 to 25% endorsement power based on his approval and trust ratings.
Pero comparatives, bago bitawan, comparatives, kung 20-25% ang endorsement power ng Pangulo, how does that compare to previous presidents?
Kasi ang tiningnan namin is gaano kataas ang approval at trust. Since mataas ang approval and trust niya ngayon, sa aming survey ng July 13 to 19, bumaba na ang kanyang approval. Yung last namin, nung quarter 1, 65, ngayon 58. Yung kanyang trust, nung quarter 1, 55, ngayon 50. Pero makikita mo yung erosion, walang erosion eh. It's a logical decrease going to the sunset. But as he said, he will go down fighting in his last few days. That is why what he will be saying today is very critical. Part of that also is the General Appropriations Act because that will define the priorities going to transition.
Ako, question ko kay Sir Dindo Manhit siguro at kay Sir Tony Lavinia, no? Yung nangyayari ngayon sa PDP Laban, balik ako sa election, ano? PDP Laban, yung rift, yung sinasabing collapse ng partido, makaka-apekto ba to? Para kaya Pangulong Duterte at sa kanyang pipiliin para sa eleksyon o may sariling lakas talaga si Pangulong Duterte na kaya niyang ibuga?
May halaga pa ba ang partido ngayon?
Isa pa yun. Yes, Sir Dindo or Sir Tony?
Maaaring hindi dahil at the end of the day, kung successful yung ouster ni Senator Pacquiao, then you basically just remove one wing of the party. So it depends on how they consolidate. At coalition naman na mangyayari dyan. So who are the other members of the coalition and how they are key in the what I call the main battleground. No? Tinatawag na malalaking boto nasa na mga puwersa doon. But balikan ko lang yung issue on the Pulse survey na kinote ni Ed. Kapansin-pansin talaga dyan yung economic is an issue now, even at we're just barely a year and may less than a year and a half sa pandemya, no? Okay. So ibig sabihin yung pandemya, ang effect nito ngayon sa atin ay basically issues of the economy already. Walang bilihin, walang trabaho, or kulang sa kita, or dahil dyan may kahirapan at gutom. So that's basically what they want the president to address in his last year.
Sige, Sir Dinto, medyo ikat namin kayo ng sandali dahil pumapasok na po dito sa, nasa batasang pambansa ng Pangulo actually kayo na pa around 15 minutes ago.
At ngayon he's about to ascend the rostrum.
Yes, galing siya sa south exit. Kanina nakita natin yung kanyang pagpasok. Tinignan niyo pa yung mukhang bagong gawang gallery sa loob ng batasang pambansa. Ito, paakyat na siya. Kanina nakita na rin natin sa Senate President Tito Soto. Ayun, si Speaker Velasco. Kanyang fist bump, At 350 people ang kasya dyan sa loob ng batasang pambansa. 1 seat apart dapat dyan na book.
Yeah.
And the usual, kailangan
diretso na sila
kailangan mo ng yung joint session Kailangan tawagin muna nitong dalawang nila, Senate President Soto and Speaker Velasco.
On the part of the Senate, the joint session is called to order.
On the part of the House of Representatives, the joint session is hereby called to order. Please rise for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, to be led by Ms. Morissette Amon and accompanied by the Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra.
Magiliw, penas ng silanganan, alap ng puso, sa bibig mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiin. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong baka, may dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidingding, ang bituin at araw niya kailan may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhating pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na magnay ng api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for the nation's prayer.
Ama naming makapangyarihan sa lahat, narito po kami upang magpasalamat sa lahat ng biyayang binibigay mo po sa aming mayaman na kalikasan, mga kakayahan at tibay ng loob. Maraming salamat po. Basbasan mo po at gabayan ang aming mahal na inang bayan at ang aming mga leader na pangalagaan ang aming kinabukasan bilang susunod na henerasyon ng aming mahal na Pilipinas. Gabayan mo po kami sa harap ng pandemya at protektahan mo po kami. Ipakita mo po sa amin ang tamang daan upang malagpasan namin ito at lahat ng mga darating pang sakuna, kalamidad o anumang hamon. Lahat ng ito ay tinatanggap namin bilang pagsubok lamang upang lalo kaming sumampalataya sa iyo. Naway matamo namin ang ganap na pagkakaisa bilang isang bayan. Turuan mo po kaming maging mapagkumbaba at laging unahin ang aming kapwa bago ang aming mga sarili, lalo na ang mga kapuspalad, mga dumaraing at ang mga nais na marinig, pati na rin ang mga kababayan naming naghahatid ng mahalagang serbisyo sa kapwa, maging dito sa Pilipinas o sa ibang bansa. Patatagin mo po sana kami bilang tao at bilang isang bayan na laging nananalig at naniniwalang hindi mo po kami pababayaan kailanman. Salamat Panginoon sa lahat ng iyong blessing sa amin. Ito po ang aming dasal. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Congress, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Kindly sit down. By far, this is the most beautiful Sona crowd that ever happened here. So many beautiful faces, and you only have to guess when you see the full face of the person. Senate President Vicente Soto III and the honorable members of the Senate, House Speaker Lord Alan J. Velasco, and the honorable members of the House of Representatives, Vice President Maria Leonor Robredo, former Presidents Fidel V. Ramos, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Joseph Ejercito Estrada, the Chief Justice Alexander Gismondo, and the Justices of the Supreme Court, Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdia, and the members of the Cabinet, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, His Excellency Archbishop Charles John Brown, and the distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps. My fellow government workers, and of course, to my lovely wife, Hanilet, mga mahal kong kababayan, when I assumed the presidency 5 years ago, dominant in my mind were the dreams and visions of a better life for all Filipinos. I saw them as reachable through the institution of reforms and radical changes in both in the structure of government and the mode of governance. Changes designed responsibility, accountability, and all in consonance with the truth that the public office is a public trust. When I ran for the presidency, I just made fundamental processes, and strangely, you can count them by the fingers of your hand. I made those changes which I thought that was really, there was time and doable. To offer free education, it's there already. The universal health care, nandiyan na po. The fight against illegal drugs, criminality, and corruption, and the development structure, including free irrigation and other big-ticket projects, which I thought I did not have the funds to do it. But perchance, among others, they were done in my term. Today, as I approach my term, my end of my term, I have less visions, but more remembrances. But mine is not to review or to second guess what might have been, but to bear and respond with the urgency of the unforeseen events as they unfold. Even before I took the oath of office, and everyone else, I suppose, knew the gravity of the enormity of the problems that the country was facing. And precisely because of that awareness, I was driven to hasten implementation of changes which I believe the country needed, keeping in mind that the Constitution afforded me only 6 years to make those changes happen. Making a difference within the constitutional time frame is what I was up against. But no one gets by legally without warming to the needle's eye of the constitutional imperatives. That is why I cajoled, I shielded, I pushed, and I tangled with men of wealth and influence who were oblivious to the angst and pleas of the weak and impoverished. And for that, I was pilloried to no end. But I did not succumb to the attacks, and neither did I allow criticisms, however intense, dampen my determination and initiatives, because my purpose was pure and unpolluted. While we were busy instituting reforms, the twin ogres of illegal drugs and corruption laid low for a while, only to resurface as still with us. And make no mistake about it, corruption is but another term of stealing people's money, dashing in its wake a nation's goals and aspirations. Due to the brilliant programs and excellent work of our economic managers and the extraordinary cooperation between the executive and legislative branches of government, our economy, with investor confidence, was poised to leapfrog from the company into the company of the world's fastest growing economies until COVID-19 pandemic stalled everything. Be that as it may, allow me this opportunity to extend my personal and the nation's gratitude to all those who selflessly gave their all in the fight against COVID-19, our health workers and other frontliners who risk their own safety. To keep our essential health services and our food supply chain running, boosting the economy activity and ensure peace and order in our communities. I would like also to extend my deepest appreciation for the generosity of the private sector who came to the government's aid in fighting COVID-19. I am profoundly thankful for your sustained assistance to fellow Filipino And amidst the same deleterious effect of the pandemic to our respective industries, let me assure you that the government is committed to assess the private sector to regain the commercial vibrance of the country prior to the pandemic. To our local executives, this pandemic pushed you to step up and deliver responsive assistance. I'm glad to have seen you undertake new and heightened responsibility, working doubly hard to protect your constituents. To the international development partners who extended a helping hand amidst the global health emergency, the Philippines remembers your kindness and goodwill with sincere gratitude. And to all of you who answered the call to protect one another by adhering to our nation's protocols, daghang salamat. But then, let me ask, perhaps you and to myself, what exactly is the state of the nation today? In the light of the pandemic which has paralyzed business activities and crippled even the strongest world's economies. So, where do we go from here? Looking back to our accomplishments. In my first Sona, I laid down with utmost commitment and resolve the overall direction of my presidency. A comfortable life for all Filipinos anchored on a people-centered approach to development and governance. If I remember correctly, my administration, I said, will implement a human approach to development governance in our people's welfare in the areas of health, free education, adequate food and housing, environmental preservation, and respect for the culture. I bore no illusions that steering a nation towards a comfortable life for every Filipino would be easy. Indeed, the past 5 years have truly been challenging and humbling. I stand here before you today bearing no conceit, but if there is one thing that I could be proud of, is that not once did I waver in doing the unpopular, even if it meant upholding the greatest good for the greatest number. Before I took office, our country was beset with communist insurgency, scattered across the nation. A separatist movement that sought to divide us on the basis of religion and religion's deficiencies, and the proliferation of illegal drugs and criminality. Our armed forces were ill-equipped to deal with internal and external threats, while the police force had been overwhelmed. By criminality and the drug trade problem. This is why I made it a priority to strengthen the institution, boost the morale of the men and women of the armed forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police and other armed services. Again, I thank Congress for working with the Executive Department in enhancing capabilities of the AFP and PNP through our modernization program. In 2018, we raised the salaries of our military and uniformed policemen and personnel to a level commensurate to the critical role they play in upholding national security and maintaining order. I am asking Congress to pass a unified system of separation, retirement, and pension of military and uniformed personnel to maintain government fiscal flexibility and provide adequate benefits and remuneration to our men and women in uniform. This shall apply only to the new entrants of the military and civil. Hindi ho lahat. Cannot be that we have to pay so many, even the salaries of the retired. They get a chunk of the big budget. And if we include the new entrants, the funds available for them would not be enough. It is also high time for us to pass a law providing free legal assistance to AFP and PNP officers, enlisted personnel. To help them from charges arising from incidents related to the performance of official duty. The continuous upgrading of our defense capability shall ensure that we shall uphold our territorial integrity and sovereignty from external and security threats among the new additions. We welcome the country's 2 missile-capable warships to enable us to protect our seas by providing them with necessary equipment, by enhancing their professional capabilities, and looking after the families of the soldiers who would not be longer be in their company. We do not only strengthen our military and police institutions, we also inspire them to serve this nation with the highest degree of loyalty and patriotism. We enable them to carry out their mandate to defeat all enemies of the state, whatever the cost. Indeed, I am proud of the accomplishments of our troops in securing our nation against all threats to our democratic institution. But peace must be realized. Peace and security is not only just a military concern. That is why we deviated from the traditional purely military approach in dealing with matters of national security. With the creation of the National Task Force to End Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, we have made great strides in addressing the root causes of this conflict by empowering our kababayans who have been used by the communists for many decades. In our continuing effort to build state of safe and conflict-resilient barangays, we have worked towards the sustainable rehabilitation and development of communities where the communists used to operate. Through the NTF-LCAC, we invested in farm-to-market roads, school buildings, water and sanitation, health stations, and livelihood. Alam mo, kasali na tayo dito lahat. Always, every law or every regulation must pass Congress, of course, to the President. But sometimes, in our, in the performance of our duties, we encounter the not so nice of confronting each other. But because of these interventions, more than 17 former communist rebels have surrendered to government. They have returned to the folds of the law and are happily reintegrating programs or their local eclipse. It's either I am talking too fast or too slow, or the operator of this thing here is drowsy. Maybe because I had so many ad-libs along the way. Marami akong akin lang. Kaya yung nahinto ako when I stop and I'm process something in the gray matter between my ears, hindi humahabol o hindi alam ng operator. Hindi bale, ma'am, mahal pa rin kita. Lalaki ba ito o yung mga babae? Kagabi yung mga babae, sila? Sabihin mo sa kanila, magipagkita ako maya. I will embrace them for their punctuality in operating this, this strange machine that gives you the speech. With the support of our local government units, I am confident that support for the communist movement will continue to erode in the next few months. Unlike the decades-old Moro rebellion in Mindanao, we also bring an end to the armed struggle of the communists once and for all. Sa totoo lang, itong komunista, college pa ako. Hanggang ngayon, ang mga sige pa rin. So, speech mo lang ito, kunwari lang, pero ang totoo, there's a lot of fighting going on in the countryside. But I'd like to credit the police and the military for destroying so many communist fronts. I think they have destroyed more than 15 apparatus or the fronts of the Communist Party of the Philippines. Alam mo, mag-istorya muna tayo sa taxation. I'd like to be frank with you. Everybody in this country are paying taxes to the communists. The Communist Party earns billions, but pass on a little to their fighting men who die for an ideology that is so rotten and corrupt. They themselves are pocketing the money, and their children are studying in Europe and in other places, which I think none of you here can finance such journey. Yan ang masakit dito. They collect taxes, support season in Netherlands, and they do nothing but bad-mouth government and mouth war dogmas and everything. Hindi na sila naganapagod. It's about 53 years in the making. And until today, the poor people are dying. The cadres, and most of them belonging to the indigenous tribes of our country, are fighting a losing battle between communists and the government. They waste lives, they enlist children, and they are proud of it, but they deny it. But when you go to the mountains, such as I and Senator go many times, even during the elections, they were there with so many arms that I think somebody, an idiot here in the Philippines, supplied the firearms. I'd like to ask Congress, especially Senator Bato, kindly dig on, because we have identified the person who imported the AK-47 into this country on the pretext of using it in the security, providing security and guards in business establishments and for those who can afford their home. This policeman, I think, is still there. He was a colonel, and she is still, walang nangyari. At maraming sundalong namatay dahil sa mga armas na pinasok nila dito sa Pilipinas. So that my orders to you, if you see them walking around, kindly shoot them dead. I would be happy. Anyway, you're already charged in the ICC together with me. So what is the problem of adding another one? Another idiot Filipino who has caused great damage to our country. Yan ho ang totoo dyan. At itong mga pulis, but let me go back in time. When I first said I will fight drugs in 6 months, I thought it was like in Davao. You can either coerce, intimidate, or bribe them. Or give them money. I said, lumabas kayo ng Davao, doon kayo magkalat sa Luzon at sa ibang lugar. Huwag dito sa Davao. Naniniwala naman ang mga ulol at we were able to attain a sense of normalcy in the city. Yun ho ang totoo. There are people charged with corruption and even going to prison for just maybe not telling the truth in their assets and liabilities. Nakukulong. Itong mga pulis were doing their thing, their drugs. They were the manufacturers and they were the distributor of drugs. When I became president, I asked De La Rosa, he was the chief of police of my city, I promoted him direct to being PNP chief. 4-star na kaagad automatic. But I told him and the others, look for the enemies. Look for where they are. And if you find them, destroy the apparatus, destroy all, from the manufacturers to the peddlers, because we are fighting a drug war that was being participated in the business by 9 generals of the PNP. Kaya ang sakit sa loob ko. I did not know that I was fighting my own government. Customs and everyone else were facilitating the importation of drugs. And one importation, as you can see it every night on TV, the police now sees about almost $1 billion worth of drugs every day. And if you look at the 888, there are about 1,000 Filipinos arrested every day by the police in connection with drug trafficking. And that is why I go crazy looking at the situation. They are still around. We do not have the laboratories now because nawala na sila. At itong naiwan ngayon are doing the importation. The citizens of another country cook their shabu in their in their tugboat or something, and they threw out the product contained in the plastic bags and be with a GPS attached to the contraband so that the importers here could find them easily. That is how we are fighting, almost losing a battle against drugs. And now, the Sinaloa gangsters of Mexico and the triad of Laos in that area. They are busy cooking, and we have the Filipinos here with nothing in their mind except to destroy a nation, distributes them. That is what I said. I've been asked the question, and several times I gave the answer. I am a Filipino, and I love my country. I do not want my country in disarray because of drugs. I do not want families break up and become dysfunctional. Yun ang masakit sa akin. If you want to destroy a family, look for a way of the member or a resident of that family home. Biglang mo na droga. Pag nandyan na yung droga at they are hooked, and that is the end. Sometimes families are separated because of drugs, becomes dysfunctional, at yung mga masawa magpunta doon sa abroad, ika nga, to look for jobs. And you know, in the Middle East, I am not attributing it to any particular country, but there are tribes in the Middle East who are employing our Filipina citizens, and they are uniform. Everybody who comes here home asks them how many hours of sleep they have. They said it's only 3 to 4 hours. And the food is hogwash. And they sacrifice because they send money to the families back home. And thinking all the time that the money was spent usefully, only to realize when she comes home that that family has already dispersed to nowhere. Bakit yan? Because itong mga durugista sa baba, itong peddlers, itong basurero, tawag, it's a street lingo. They look for families na may mga nanay, tatay nagtrabaho, ang tatay or nanay nagtatrabaho sa abroad. And to think na iniiwan nila ang mga anak nila kung saan-saan na lang, to their neighbors, at the tender age of 3 to 4, 5, it breaks your heart. Iiwan lang nila sa kapitbahay kung walang mga relatives. And then, when they come back 4 years after, they now realize that their young sons and daughters have gone into prostitution because of drugs. And their boys or their male are nowhere to be found and into the drug business also. Yun ang pinakamasakit. Masakit sa akin na ang Pilipina pumunta doon para magtrabaho because sexual abuse in some tribes in the Middle East have this notion that if you are a slave or you are a paid person working for them, sexual abuse becomes part of the territory. Kaya dyan ako pumuputok at nakakita ko yung mga pamilya na sira. And to think that they labored without sleep, eating, I said, garbage, and not being allowed to go to their own church to pray, well, that is prohibited by them. And we have been, just because of their money that they get, we just look the other way around, but still being, bothered every night, and what will happen to the next succeeding group of. That is why I have in this speech, I talk about slavery. Pero yan, magprangka ako, I will never deny, and the ICC can record it. Those who destroy my country, I will kill you. And those who destroy the young people of our country, I will kill you. Talagang ngayariin kita because I love my country. You can do it the legal way, but it would take you months and years. And you know what? The statistics I just learned the other night, that plenty of those who are in the middle class have been released from prison despite the fact that they are charged of trafficking which is non-bailable, and most of them are out. Babae pati lalaki ang kaso. And that is why I said, I toyed with the idea. I said, if there is still space, with due respect to the Senate President, he is a good man. He can become a good Vice President. He is holy. Ngayon, hindi na siya nahuhuli. Noon, huling-huli siya. But with due respect to Senator Soto, who's also running for the Vice Presidency, he is a capable man, a good man, and a Filipino. Sige ako tingin sa harap na dito para sa likod ko. You know, you are old. I've been in politics, mayor for 23 years. 5 years as a congressman dito. I work here. And 4 years working as vice mayor for my daughter, Sarah. And the presidency. I have been in politics almost 23 plus 4 plus 4. Almost 40. Kaya kung hindi ko na malaman ang seat arrangement dito, hindi ko alam na doon pa ang mga Senate President pati. Butit na lang hindi ko sinali si Velasco. Baka hindi na ako makabalik doon maya. Bale, diretso na ako uwi. I have said many times before, the bloodshed caused by the separatist movement in Mindanao is all about correcting the historical injustice suffered by the Moro people. Since the period of colonialization, with the help of Congress, we were able to pass the organic law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. finally fulfilling a promise that was decades in the making. Our victory in Marawi is also a testament to how the Filipinos' patriotism is far stronger than any extremist group. As I have said before many times, there is no room for lawlessness in this country. Rebuilding a better Marawi remains today still not completed. To Task Force Bangon Marawi, we need to race against time, and you have to finish the necessary work for to rehabilitate the war-torn city and bring back its families back home. But let me talk again about the drugs. I was just ahead because I was talking something else. Nag-segue ako. While we have made great strides in ending rebellion and insurgency in various parts of the country, we still have a long way in our fight against the proliferation of drugs. This problem has hounded our country for several decades, destroying families and degrading the moral fiber of our society. When I assumed office, I committed to end this problem at the soonest possible time. We launched an unprecedented war against illegal drugs and to destroy their apparatus. That permitted every level and sector of society. We wage war on the manufacturers, the financiers, the suppliers, the peddlers, and the entire syndicates, and more importantly, their protectors in government. We have rescued and reformed drug dependence because of their idiotic sense of decency. While interventions and building facilities not only for the rehabilitation, but also to prepare them to reintegrate into society. Our unyielding campaign led to the surrender of millions of drug dependents and neutralization, capture, and prosecution of thousands of drug personalities. The dismantling of illegal drugs and syndicates and the drug laboratories, the extensive drug communities down to the barangay level, and the cutting of narco politics. You know, allow me a little bit of your time. Wala naman siguro kayong lakad ngayon. Unless you want to, unless you have this appointment with, I'm sure hindi babae yan. That would be a sexist statement. Kung nagmamadali talaga, halos tumatakbo, babae yan. Kung naglalakad lang na natural, medyo less important yan. Ganon yan. Pero dito wala. I'm not making any sexist. I'm just saying the truth. What is the truth? It's there for all to see. Let me talk about our quest for infrastructure development. 5 years ago, the first thing I made sure was to increase our infrastructure spending to an average of 5% of the country's GDP. This is significantly higher than the infrastructure spending of each and past 4 administrations. Thanks to the comprehensive tax reform program that enabled us to fund critical infrastructure projects, today we can see the tangible results all around. MRT 3 with its frequent breakdowns and unloading of passengers mid-rail, was a horror. That was for the daily commuters to endure in the past. Now, MRT3 no longer unloads passengers but to their destinations. The waiting time between trains had been significantly reduced to 10 trains running at only 30 kilometers per hour before. Now MRT runs 23 trains at 60 kilometers per hour. We have taken away the misery of public commuting. We also pursue the completion of the LRT to East Extension project by extending Line 2 and adding 2 more stations. We have reduced travel time between Manila and Antipolo from the usual 2 to 3 hours to only just 40 minutes. Thanks to our partnership with the private sector, we are able to open Stage 3 of the Metro Manila Skyway in January this year. This decongested EDSA and other major roads in Metro Manila. On Independence Day last month, we also inaugurated the Kalayaan Bridge, part of the BGC Ortigas Center Link project, which will reduce the usual 1-hour travel time between the two business districts in just 12 minutes. Beyond Metro Manila, we are pursuing several high-impact projects that will be completed within my term and perhaps in the following years. It's a question of money. Just this July, we inspected the newly built passenger terminal building of the Clark International Airport. The new and modern passenger terminal is equipped with the latest state-of-art technology. This can accommodate 8 million passengers, alleviate air traffic congestion at the Naya Airport, as well as serve a major growth driver and gateway to northern and central Luzon. Madali man na magpakpak, ang basa ang mahirap. To help promote equitable development, we also completed several roads leading to important trade corridors. Last year, we completed the construction of the Poro Point Free Port Zone Road in La Union, which improved nakita na ninyo yan? Wala. Sige lang, pakpak. You don't even have a picture of what I'm talking about, I'm sure. To improve access to prime spots for investment tourism in the Poro Point area. We also completed the junction Lanao-Pagadian-Zamboanga City Road, which will provide easier access to farms and easily transport their agricultural products at low cost and in great quantities to industries in economic zones located in Diplahan, Zamboanga, Sibugay. The Sorsogon City in Bicol, inuna namin yan kasi Mahal ko ang mga Bicolano. Pangangatawan ninyo yung pakpak ninyo, ha? Baka the Sorsogon City Coastal Pass-by Road is targeted completion by the end of 2021, while the Davao City Coastal Road will be completed by 2023. Bakit? Why? Why is Davao last? Kasi sinabi ko sa kanila, unahin ninyo yung buong Pilipinas. During the initial years of my presidency, I told the economic managers and the DPWH, pati si Art Tugade sa transportation, unahin ninyo ang Luzon at ibang areas sa Mindanao. Do not look into the political entrails of this city and other provinces. Sinadya ko talaga na ipanguli ang Davao. Kaya for the Davaoenos, you must understand that we cannot really unahin natin yung, kasi taga dyan ako eh. Kung hindi ako sigurado taga Davao, tapos na yan, pareho ng iba. Kaya lang sinabi ko, make Davao the last priority. At totoo yan. Sorsogon is a little politics, but that's the territory of our Vice President, Lene Robredo. Are you here, ma'am? Zoom. Meron ho kayong Sorsogon at iba pa. We have inaugurated new highways and roads and skyways. We have brought both new trains, and these are a testament that we have greatly eased the grueling experience of traveling and commuting. And to sustain our momentum in infrastructure development, I have directed DPWH, DTR, NEDA, Department of Finance, and DBM to be on full speed to ensure that our flagship project will be completed within my term, especially those that could help disperse economic activity outside of the densely populated Metro Manila. I thus earnestly call upon our LGU and private sector partners to help us speed and go for the earliest realization towards our flagship project, infrastructure, and others. Let me dwell about governance. As we improve the connectivity, we work towards greater convenience for our travelers. We have extended the validity of the Philippine passport to 10 years to lessen the burden of our traveling travelers and OFWs. We have also gone beyond merely addressing the 3 million backlog of the driver's licenses in 2016. We also extended for the new cards the validity of the driver's license to 5 years, and addedly, we shall begin the issuance of these driver's licenses within 10 years, which would be good for 10 years if there is no traffic violation. So, punta ka doon sa LTO, maybe you have a good sight. Merong ano yan eh. I think there's an examination there somewhere to test your ability to drive safely. and you go back 10 years after, and you think that you still have the good side, and your reflexes are still good. 10 years, marami yung banggaan yan. Sigurado ako. After 10 years, after 5, there should be a stricter measure to issue the 10 years validity of a driver's license by imposing stringent requirements to test the essential functions of eyesight, then the hearing. Yung iba, hindi na nakakarinig ng serbato eh. And so, I have to, 10 years is too long. So I like it. It's good. But we should have assessed in 5 years, we should go there for a medical makeover. Tingnan lang kung kaya pa. Not only did we extend the validity of the licenses and passports, we also sought to make long lines a thing of the past. By streamlining government processes, these efforts are embodied in the Ease of Doing Business Act, which Congress passed on 2018. Thank you, Congress. Sa inyo yun. Ako ang nagpirma pala. Ako nag-execute. Pakpak rin kayo. Dapat ganun ang Sona. Sabihin mo lahat. At sabihin mo na your, not really your qualms, but your misgivings somewhere there. Transactions will be further streamlined with the rollout of the Philippine Identification System, or the PhilSy, to the Philippine Identification System Act. With this, we hope to facilitate better access, better services and access for all Filipinos, even in the far-flung areas. I want to say something about this, but I'm taking too long, We also ensured the modification of the salary schedule for civilian government personnel through the Salary Standardization Law 5. A necessary measure for our civil servants to recognize their work and accomplishment, as well as a gesture of gratitude and goodwill. We have this legacy, and we hope to pass on this establishment of Central Business Portal, single site, and for all business-related transactions, such as securing business permits, licenses, and clearances, and launched earlier this year. It shall be elevated our global standing in doing business arena and improve our country's competitiveness. Alam mo ito, yung queuing. When I was a mayor, I don't know, but maybe a legislator or a senator or a congressman, well, not really that he is higher than the others. But kung dumaan ka as a local government employee worker, just like me, for 23 years, itong queuing, matagal ko na ito. In Davao, ang passport issuances na doon sa likod ng SM, isang gabi, nagmotor ako, nakita ko yung mga paa sa simento. So I was thinking, ano nangyari dito? So nagbaba ako, sabi ko, Bakit dito kayo natutulog? Sabi nila, Mayor, ang pagbukas niyan, kailangan nakapila na kami. Pag hindi, ibang araw na naman kami. So, I called for the Chief of Office. And I said, look, I may not be the person above you supervising, but make sure that this thing will not happen tomorrow. As in tomorrow. Tapos tinawagan ko sabi ko, why don't you give cards? Kung marami sila paglinya, may maglakad na martial, ito, ikaw bukas, at 4 p.m. So you have to study the time and motion of people doing work. Sabi ko, ayaw ko dito sa Davao. Because Mindanao, nasa Davao ang ang issuances ng passport. So ngayon, pagka-presidente ko, sabi ko, ayaw ko nang makita yan. Not during my time. Not during my time. Maghanap pa ng ibang panahon. Ayusin ninyo yan. I do not want people queuing under the heat of the sun and rain. Kaya, sabi ko, di magbigay kayo ng card. They should go to one window, magkuha kayo kung kailan sila makabalik. So divide, I said, study your time. And the motion of, the process of. And dito nangyari na because I insisted. Today there is no more queuing, especially in the National Office, Statistics Office. Nakita ko. Talagang, sabi ko na, either you fix the thing or I will resign tomorrow because I could not bear to see those people. Hindi sa panahon ko, kung hindi ko madala, hindi ko man kayo mapatay, hindi ko kayo mabugbog. Ako ang alis sa gobyerno. Sabi ko, ayusin ninyo yan. Hindi ko gustong makita yan. Since 2016, the Office of the President has issued 138 executive orders, 43 administrative orders, 86 memorandum circulars, 52 memorandum orders, and 1,038 proclamations. These issuances have been integral guideposts government administration and development agenda. The Office of the President has demonstrated careful stewardship of the power by initiating reforms. We upgraded and improved the system and processes to ensure that it can provide the best service to the institution of the presidency and the offices under it, ultimately to the Filipino people. To further promote transparency and accountability in government, we also issued the Order of the Freedom of Information and opens the records of transaction, decision, issuances of all government agencies. In relation to this, we have also Presidential Anti-Corrupt Commission that is tasked to run after corrupt and erring government officials and bring them to justice. Alam mo, I don't know if you perhaps have come to know about this. I have yung pastillas sa airport. There were 43 personnel involved. I fired them all. Talagang pinaalis ko sa gobyerno. Nagbalot mga ako ng pera sa pastillas. Sabi ko magbalot ka, lagyan mo ng pera. Kaya ito ang ipakain ko sa kanila. Tinawag ko, 43 of them from the immigration. Mabutit na lang nandyan si Justice Secretary Guevara. So, that prevented me from doing it because kung hindi siya dumating, and I never expected him to be there, bigyan ko isa't isa yung papel at ipakain ko talaga yung pera sa kanila. Gusto mo ng pera, kainin mo. That is the best way of... Then you fire them. Customs 73 plus 42, and every day you have about... We have dismissed about 200 government personnel. But some I did not allow the publication because may mga pamilya eh. So of late yung sabi nila na wag na lang kasi nasasaktan yung mga... So ngayon wala na. I have stopped it, but there is no saying that we cannot reimpose it again for all of these idiots. I still have about a year to go. I will reach you somehow. But corruption is endemic in government. You cannot stop corruption. Nobody can stop corruption unless you overturn government completely. If I were the next president, if you think there's really a need for you to change everybody in the system, then you declare martial law and fire everybody and allow the new generation to come in to work for government. Eh, kung hindi mo ganunin, walang mangyari. Nandyan, it's in the system. Kagaya ng drugs. Sino ba naman maniwala na 9 generals sa police were into trafficking of drugs? And because they are policemen, the charges simply just, disappeared. Because the prosecution, the investigation, which form part of the vital documents in court, wala, nobody was investigating because they are also policemen. Kaya yan kahirap ang Kaya gusto mo, itong mga to, talagang the only way to do it, just call them and say, look for another job. Don't. Ganon kahirap. Now, let me pursue my talk with the foreign policy of the country. In the international arena, we have vigorously pursued an independent foreign policy centered on the promotion and protection of our core national interests. Yet, sigurado kayo sa pinakpakan ninyo? I was just laying the predicate of what I'm going to say. Yet, we continue. I will just give the cue, then you clap your hands. Yet we continue to work with all nations and seek partnerships that work. Because despite differences, it is an independent world where interests and objectives intersect. Now, partners heretofore silent for equivocal reasons have expressed their principled positions that echo our own, that disputes and contested areas, the majesty of the law must prevail, and this is most welcome. To our friends in ASEAN and around the world, thank you for supporting my government, my country and people, where it truly matters. I assure you that the Philippines will remain a responsible member of the international community. and we will work with you to achieve our shared objectives. But make no mistake, rather. Gone are the days when the Philippines decides and acts in the shadows of the great powers. We will assert what is rightfully ours and fight for what is rightfully due to the Filipino people. We do not have any Sona every day. Now it's as good as any other time too. Just let it out from puso mo. This is why we sent back container vans of garbage, because our country is not a dump site. And the first country to do that, hindi ko alam kung bakit, ang Canada. And the container was there for 3 years because hindi alam ng port authorities kung anong gawain nila sa garbage. And I said, isauli mo. I want it done tomorrow. Those containers must be out of our country. Pag hindi, kayong lahat, all of you in Costo, I'll fire you. That is a good ground for dismissing people, for accepting the garbage. Kaya, may isa pa. Pero let you in this story. The Balingiga. Well, we welcome back the bells of Balingiga after many decades because a historic wrong needed to be corrected. The deal was, I would say, I am in bad faith. Sigurado yan, I will admit it, but this is the real story. The Americans, former soldiers, war veterans, went to see me, I think it was in Aguinaldo, and some military men. And in no uncertain terms, they said that you have been invited by Trump to go to America. Have you decided to go there? I said, no. Why? Because I do not like the way that you are treating my country. Why? I said, for one, and there was the clamor now of Balingiga. You return the bells of Balingiga. So that's a war really sacred also to the soldiers. Then it is more sacred to us in addition to the religion, the Roman Catholic Filipino Church, the church. Sabi nila, why would to make a deal? Si Hogan, he is around. He's a CIA agent. Sabi niya, isauli namin, pupunta ka, because I said earlier in my presidency, there will never be a time that I will go to America. Itong mga media mahilag mag-udyok eh. Ganon, bakit ka hindi punta? O arte mo lang yan. Sabi ko, then you watch me. Gusto ninyong malaman. Sabi ko sa Amerika, yes, I might consider going to America. So, well then. O sabi ko, work on it. Ano in just 2 months' time, they told me that the ship carrying the Balingiga bells are on their way. could deliver it to Quezon. You remove it, you put it back there, kayo mismo. So tulong-tulong sila doon, nabalik na. And Hogan said, oh, so when are you going to go to America? So I do not have the time. But I will go there. Nung malapit na, hindi na talaga ako pumunta. Well, how about your promise? Well, I lost time to do it. I cannot do it now. Pero talaga, in my mind, and the Americans might know it, there was never in my mind a trip to America. Yung Balingiga, sabi ko, you massacred one barangay, baryo noon, women and children and all. Pinatay nila lahat. Because that bell, Balingiga, was used to call the people for prayers, ganon. Sa simbahan yun eh. So yung ginawa nila, every time it is used, the Americans knew that it has a great significance to the Filipinos, the Balingiga. After the massacre of one barangay, how many at the time we would never know. But it was said, isang baryo. No barangay ngayon, baryo noon yan eh. Barrio is an American word. The barrio. They also call the small places in Mexico barrio. Right? The Americans borrowed it from the Spaniards, barrio. So sabi ko, blood, you really got it at the expense of the blood of Filipinos. I do not hurry me up. If I go to America, it will be in my own time. Pero actually, wala ako. I have not been to America for almost 10 years, 22 years. I have not visited America, and I do not have the intention of visiting it anymore. We called on the world to dismantle the heinous kafala system. Ito ring isa. Because the Filipino is no slave unto anyone, anywhere. And there is no room for modern-day slavery. We helped start a new global civil rights movement for the migrant worker. And we asserted the arbitration ruling on the South China Sea clearly and in no uncertain terms, bilaterally, and the ASEAN, and finally at the United Nations General Assembly. And let me talk about that. I said in the September of last year, the arbitral award is now part of the international law and beyond compromise and beyond the reach of the passing governments to dilute, to diminish, or abandon. That is the problem. We would like to just to everybody in the Middle East. I would like to tell them that not only Filipinos, but all human beings, the kafala has no place there because it's a setup for slavery. either you correct it or we will ask our workers, Filipino workers, to go home. Sabi ko, bahala na. Kung mahirap lang kami dito, okay lang. We will try our very best to make up for what they have lost, what they will lose in the process. But we will never allow them to be slaves. But we need to do more with our partners. We continue scaling our maritime domain awareness, defense capabilities. Yet, we will not close our doors on diplomacy and the tongue, because that is how disputes are settled and never by force. Let me alam mo, I respect the opinion. You should be aware by now of how I talk, especially on matters of crucial matters that involves the country. Ito bang arbitral ruling? I've said it I think in the later part of the speech. I said that what's your problem in the arbitral ruling? America and some Filipinos, brilliant Filipinos, I would say, keep on pushing for something which I really do not know. I have made a speech before the UN. Nakasump lang rin, andito lang ako. Hindi ako pumunta doon. But in that speech, I laid down the bare, sabi ko, ng ating administrasyon. Ano pa ang gusto ninyo? What will I do with a document that is not bind China because they were never a part of that arbitration? There was really no arbitration at all because it was only the Philippine side was heard. Well and good. But ito ngayon, that there is the arbitral ruling, you know, I do not want to insult these people pushing me for something more than what I can handle. At anong gusto nila makipagira? Do something. What they do something? Do you want war against China? Well, I'll tell you, even on the coast beach of Palawan, before you can take off, the missile of China would be there in about 5 or 10 minutes. It would be a massacre if I go and fight a war now. We are not yet a competent and able enemy of the other side. So what I did was I was just being nice to them. But for some people to say that I was helped by China in being president, these idiots, really. I will never do that. Hindi na bali ako, hindi ma-presidente, hindi talaga gagawin yan. To be, what? Receiving money from China to buy votes? They said that they help. Maybe in some Chinese communities, the gossip going around was that support Duterte. But the whole of the Chinese community in the Philippines went for me. Why? Kasi sa Davao nung mayor ako, ni minsan hindi ako tumatanggap baski Christmas gift. Dito marami dito sa Maynila, presidente ako ngayon. Maraming pagpadala ng baril, kung anong ano dyan, gobset. Sabi ko, isauli mo yan. Yung mga relo, itong aking relo, it's IWC. This is only 300,000. But the patik that has come way me, sinauli ko talaga, return it. O pag hindi, itapon mo sa Pasig sa harapan nila. Hindi ako tinulungan ng China. Nag-usap kami ng China civilly, but after election. And after election, I was a good friend of presidency. Until now, when the pandemic struck, the first country I called for help was China. President Xi, sabi ko, President, we have no vaccination program here because we do not have the vaccines. We have not been able to invent one. We might have a hard time. He said, no, it's okay, we'll send you. And he sent us, I donated about 1,500,000 of vaccines. Ganon, kaya sabi ko, ako, lalo na kami mga Bisaya, mabigat sa amin yan, for us Bisayans, yung utang na loob, mabigat talaga yan. Hindi mo mabayaran ng ano, pero pag may utang na loob ako sa iyo, you can be sure that I will be your friend, a true friend, and die for you. Pero itong China mag-die, bakit ako magpakamatay dyan? Yung sundalo ko, ubusin ko. How can we fight China? Do we have the weapons? Do we have the everything? Now comes America. They say that if the attack is against the Philippines, they will defend. But they issued a statement that America does not meddle in conflicts involving the boundaries of other nations. And if America has to go to war, you would have to go to Congress to get, American Congress to get that authority to go to war. That is why many presidents, hindi na lang, it was just not an error, a mistake, a malicious mistake. No president has ever been punished for attacking nations, getting into a fight with nothing. And if they come here, well, ang problema kasi nandito na yung balingiga, sa uli na lang natin, uli. Maybe I'll just return and pag ito it's no big deal to us, ring it until you die. Fulfilling my promise to our coconut farmers and the Filipino people, my administration has worked with Congress to pass the Coconut Farmers and Industry Trust Fund Act. We have returned also the cocoa levy funds to its true and rightful owners, our coconut farmers. The fund is now worth estimated to be 75 billion, which will be utilized according to the plans and programs in the Coconut Farmers and Industry Development Plan for the direct benefit of the coconut farmers and the development of the coconut industry. In our effort to ensure that food is within reach to every Filipino family, we work for the passage of the rice tariffication law in 2019, despite pushbacks. This resulted in the stabilization of rice supply and food prices and the proceeds from the tariffs that enabled us to provide our farmers with modern machineries that increase their yield and sustaining growth agricultural production. We also fulfilled our promise to improve free irrigation. That was the first promise I made in San Miguel, Bulacan when I was campaigning. The farmers invited me to go into the farms inside San Miguel, Bulacan. And we had a sort of a meeting, and the first thing that they were complaining about was the severity of the irrigation that they have to pay 5,000 every month, every year. So sabi ko, I will work on it. Free Irrigation Service Act of 2018 is a product that now lowers the cost of agricultural production, especially for poor farmers. We also work to ensure that households have adequate supply of clean water, potable and affordable water. It's more than a commodity. It is vital. It is a vital public good. This is why I used my political capital to fight vested interest behind disadvantageous water service contracts that burden consumers with unjustified water prices increases with the signing of this concession water agreements. Concessioners consumers will be protected at least until 2037. Ganito yan eh. There is this concessionaire, dalawa. Ayoko na lang I will not mention names. Pero this is really what happened. Ang dalawang concessionaires, one in the south and the other one is north. As the rich cartel dito sa Southeast Asia, ang kinakapture nila ang electricity pati tubig. Dito sa tubig, in this contract with water concessionaires, we made so many concessions that really, sabi ko, if you look at the contract and look at the anti-graft law, talagang it's all anti-graft. All of the sentences, even the period, and question mark there. Bakit? Sila walang problema sa tax because the people, consumers, will pay the taxes for them. Sila kung malugi, sabi na, hindi nila kasalanan, and I can think of it, through not of their own fault, sabi doon, bayaran natin sila malugi. We pay for the tax corporation nila. At sila ang mag-decide kung i-increase nila o i-decrease nila ang water prices. The regulators, itong mga regulators sa Pilipinas, walang magawa, and they acceded to the contract. It was really, I do not know how to put it. Kaya ako nag-pardon, di ba nagmura ako? Sabi ko, biro mo kung malugi sila, babayaran pa natin. Tayo ang corporate tax nila. Tayo ang magbayad. And it's a cartel that service concessionaires are part of the cartel of Malaysia and Indonesia, and they form part of that mother corporation. Itong mga sa Pilipinas, pati Malaysia, Indonesia, they are just kumbaga sa storya, chapter lang yan sila. It's being controlled up by the kasabi ko, wala ito. I told them, I told Dominguez, tell them that I am no longer honoring the contract. Meron pa doon, payment of itong tax, water treatment plant to be constructed in the Harrison Plaza site. Yun ang pinirmahan natin. So, 1997 up to the present, or up to the month that I blew my top, nagbabayad, ewan ko kung ano nagbabayad, there's a, sa water bills ninyo for enhancement of quality water. Ang ibig sabihin, water treatment. And they were collecting since 1997. So until now, how much of the Filipinos' money are with them for nothing, not even for a song? Kaya ako, if there is something, hindi naman proud, but if there is something someday that my children will say, what have you done for my country? Sabihin ko, sila. Talagang inupakan ko sila. Sabi ko, ayaw ninyo? You do not want it? Well, okay. I will just confiscate your system and call the military to operate it. I will exercise the eminent domain and expropriate all of your assets here. Kasi gagawin ko. Yun ang nangyari sa... So that sinabi ko sa military in one of our meetings immediately after that incident, I said, if I do not make it to the finish line, kindly, look kindly at the Filipino at tanungin ninyo kung ano na ang nangyari sa kanila. Yang tubig na yan. Now there is a new contract. I have not yet, I have to thoroughly digest it inside. I have to absorb it, every word of it, that the Filipino is protected. Pag nandyan na yan, then I will sign. But I will not forget. I'm telling them, the crime is there already. And any Filipino who would want to go after you can. Sabi ko, I will not free you. I will not, there's no waiver in you. I will never allow that. Just make a new contract. Just realize every day that I can call you itong frequency ng ABS-CBN. Yan ang pinaka-ideal kasi, you know, frequency is everywhere. But there is a spot, kung sa Gulf is a soft spot, na maganda yung... Wala akong problema sa ABS-CBN. They got my money, I'm not for that. They wanted to return it when the case blew up. But they printed all the garbage, including my daughter as a drug trafficker. Nilamon ko na lang lahat yun. Because I never wanted to appear vindictive. But itong they are cheating government by the billions in taxes. And they still want that frequency because yan ang pinapag-awayan. No. I will give it to a Filipino na gustong magawa ng tamang unpay because isa ABS-CBN, yung even their equipments were imported tax-free. Kaya talaga ako hindi magpapayag. They still owe government billions. In the contract dyan sa nakalagay doon 4 hectares. So ang binabayaran nila 4 hectares sa property tax. Suppose occupying 40 hectares. That complex there. Pero ginamit nila na papel yung 4 hectares. Yun lang ang binabayaran nila. Kung hindi ba naman, kaya ko sila inaway. Well, our micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, constitute 99.6% of our country's businesses and are vital to economic activity, job creation, and poverty reduction. Iparamdam natin ang ating malasakit sa maliliit na negosyante sa pamamagitan ng Pondo sa Pagbago at Pag-asenso Program since 2017. Meron na tayo. We have the program. The program has provided over 219,000 underprivileged microeconomic entrepreneurs with an alternative to the exploitive lending 5-6. Yan ang nakaano sa, do you know what? Maybe I have to go to, if need be, I have to go to India. Yung 5-6 nila ng Turko, tinatawag ng Turko, kung maghiram ka sa kanila ng 10,000, pahiramin kanyang, hindi pera 10,000, 7,000 lang. And the others, mga refrigerator or things that you do not even need in the house. Bilhin mo sa kanila, sala set, lahat na. That is part of the money. You do not want the furnitures, the refrigerators, they won't give you the... Kaya ang Pilipino na buktot, alam mo buktot, naging hunchback na lang sa trabaho, ganun pa man. Kaya ako, sabihin ko itong mga Turko, you better come up with a fair scheme. If you want to go into business, money lending, but not at that usury rate 1,000 times. Likewise, to further support development of our micro and small business, we initiated radical reforms in the tax system to ease the taxation burden and increase the net income of lower wage earners and small businesses. Thanks to Congress. Yan, hindi pa ninyo alam, ha? Sabi ko lang, thanks to Congress and our revenue-generating agencies, our tax reform sustained our economic growth from the third quarter of 2016 to the fourth quarter of 2019, which made the Philippines one of the fastest-growing economies in Asia until the pandemic scourge. Yan talaga ang, well, I don't know what's the plan of God. That is something which hit us right in the heart. We see there's no way of telling when this virus would disappear from the planet of the earth. We can only pray to God to look into our direction and decide on what will happen to this planet He created. However, tax laws are not always perfect, and that is why every now and then they have to be revisited to see if they are at pace with the changing times. Let us therefore continue to monitor the relevance and the impact of our tax laws on individuals and private institutions to prevent serious damage on their financial health. Going now to the social and health issues. To unburden of people from the hefty cost of tertiary education, my administration worked with Congress to pass a landmark legislation that had remained unpassed for so many years. The Universal Access or Tertiary Education Act in 2017, which provides free education to college students and state universities. Thank you, Congress. We also passed the Universal Health Care Act in 2019, and to supplement this, I also signed into law the Malasakit Centers Act in 2019. Kasi ganito yan eh. Pag ang pobreng Pilipino na sa ospital, magpunta pa siya doon sa kung saan makahingi ng tulong. So, ang ginawa, just like in Davao, ginawa namin, yung lahat na kailangan, yung internal revenue, kung nandyan, business permit, dyan na lang sa isang lugar, medisina, kunin nila. Dyan mismo sa ospital. Hindi na sila maglakad-lakad. And to me, that is one of the most, let me find the right word, a poignant act of Congress and of the Executive Department. Legislation which was sponsored by Senator Bongo. If you feel like standing up, you can, Senator. Masikat ka pa sa guest speaker. Unburden our peoples with the tedious process of going to various agencies and offices in order to avail assistance from government. I am pleased to report that we have already established 130 malasakit centers across the country. That has already helped millions of Filipinos in their hospitalization needs. By establishing malasakit centers all over the country, we have actually leveled the playing field and provide our less fortunate countrymen the medical care they deserve. We will be establishing more, God willing, if we are still around. Sa pagtatag ng malasakit center, hindi po kailangan lumapit at humingi ng tulong sa iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno. Ang gobyerno na ang lumalapit sa tao. So let us talk about COVID. It's mentioned everywhere in the speech, but what's this goddamn virus is? I have to admit, back when I decided to answer your call and run for higher office, never did I imagine that my presidency would not only be judged by how I made good in my campaign promises in fighting illegal drugs, criminality, corruption, but how well I led our nation during the global pandemic. Hindi na ako makapronounce ng buti, baka mayroon na ako. May ambulansya ba dyan? Mukhang iba na ang... You know, I cannot pronounce the words. I hope this is not a symptomatic. Prior to the pandemic, we recorded our lowest debt to GDP ratio since 1986, the highest revenue effort since 1997, the highest credit rating in the country's history, yung sa bangko. Because if your rating is high, it's easy to borrow at maliit lang ang interest. That is the dynamics of a rating by Fitch and Poor, mga ganon. So, and the lowest rates of unemployment and underemployment and poverty. Well, it's still there. It is beyond dispute that our economic governance fundamentals were robust when COVID-19 hit us. I am sure that much can be said about the way we took on the daunting challenge of preserving lives while sustaining our momentum towards the developmental, dito na lang ako, goals. Naturally, we prioritize saving lives. Buhay muna bago ang lahat. Ibig sabihin, inuna natin yung gastos, yung pera natin sa pandemic. Kinuha ng lahat ng mga budget. Si Dominguez yan. Yun ang ginamit ninyo sa Bayanihan 1 and 2. Doon natin kinuha yung pera. We move quickly to safeguard the well-being of every Filipino through preventive and responsive health and safety measures and broad inclusive social amelioration programs or SAP. Thanks to the support of Congress, we launched the most extensive social protection program in our country's history with the Bayanihan passage of Bayanihan 1 and Bayanihan 2. Indeed, our national health system and the resilience were tested to the health. Countless lessons we learned and continuously improvements put in place. Kahit anong crisis ay kaya malampasan kung tunay na may malasakit at bayanihan. I agree. At the early stages of the pandemic, our testing capacity was very limited. Recognizing the importance of conducting more tests to ensure early detection and timely isolation of confirmed COVID-19 cases, we ramped up our testing capacity. We now have more than 260 accredited laboratories nationwide, which is still capable of conducting at least 50,000 tests daily. All regions now can conduct their own COVID-19 tests. To take care of mild and asymptomatic cases, we established over 9,000 temporary treatment and monitoring facilities across the country, with a total bed capacity of more than 140,000. Together with the local government and the private sector, we quickly established mega quarantine facilities that could accommodate more cases. Modular hospitals and quarantine facilities have also been established nationwide, especially in Metro Manila. For our severe COVID cases, our tireless health workers will continue to ensure that you are provided with the best care round the clock based on the latest development global best practices. Our health experts continue to actively participate in the search for safe and effective COVID-19 medicines. With the help of Congress, kita mo sa lahat, I never said, wala kang magiging ito I developed because the construction of a bridge that is nowhere to be found today. Yung ako sa inyo talaga, with the help of Congress, we passed 13 measures that establish improve the capacity of existing hospitals around the country to provide quality care and services. Our people, especially amid the ongoing pandemic 19. This includes establishing new medical facilities in Mandaluyong City, Bacolod, and Davao Occidental, increasing bed capacities to existing health facilities. In Quezon City, Ilocos Sur, La Union, and Palawan, the upgrading of health facilities in that area to include Leyte. Currently, we have received over 30 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. We expect to at least receive 36 million vaccines this month, and in August, we have inoculated more than 7 million Filipinos which have received the first dose, at least 17 million. Well, I think the landscape, the health landscape of the country continues to improve as we, with the continuous approval of COVID-19 vaccines, we are ready to boost further our daily vaccination rate. And I also encourage our local government units to hasten their rollout and strengthen their inoculation program. San Juan City, for one, have vaccinated 70% of their population in a month's time. Saludo ako sa inyo at kay Mayor Zamora. We cannot continue living in the shadow of this potent enemy, especially now that science and medicine has proven that it is possible to live, if not entirely defeat this virus. The health and safety protocols we put in place have proven effective in slowing down the spread of virus. But the best solution is still vaccination. Am I to mataas na ba? Kasi kung mataas na, putulin na lang ninyo itong gumagalaw dito para sabihin ko, wala naman akong mabasa. Pag matagal na, those who want to go home, raise your right hands. Pati si Monsignor, wakang taas niya kamay niya. That is why I implore our countrymen who are now in the list of sectors to be inoculated, to get vaccinated now. And to those who received the first doses, please return for your second shot. I also ask for patience for those who are next in line to receive vaccine. More and more COVID-19 vaccines are arriving each week, and you will soon have your turn. Corollary to this, it is high time that clear and precise uniform protocol and guidelines are issued in anticipation of the vaccination of more Filipinos and the steady reopening of our society. You know, pagpasensyahan ninyo ako, I ask, I beg your kind indulgence. But I have to talk about something which would affect us all. It seems that this government is too far away from the people. Yung serbisyo talaga na totoo. Nung isang araw nakita ko, I don't have to know what place was that. Ang mga tao nakapila. And they said that they were there at 4 o'clock. Lumalakas yung ulan, sa payong lang sila. So nanonood ako sa report because I listen to the report every morning. Makukuha mo sa mga radio station yan eh. So I was having breakfast. I was listening to their TV. At nakita ko yung mga tao nakapila doon, malakas ang ulan. Sabi ko, doon sa breakfast table, nagmura ako. Pero dito, good boy man ako kay may mga religious dyan. Baga. I just call on the National Task Force Against COVID-19 to see to it that this happens. I mean, the protection. We have spent enormous amounts of resources to build our capacities to overcome this pandemic. We cannot afford more lockdowns, lest our economy bleeds to the point of irreversible damage. Balitang ko, bakit mo papilahin? At sabi kasi doon, libre lahat na, wala nang ano. So nagpuntahan yung mga tao, nagpila, kasi wala nang lista-lista. Pero sabi nung ito, alas 4 pa sila. Hindi lang ako pwedeng alam mo sa totoo lang, hindi naman ako nagyayabang. I'm just an ordinary Filipino citizen. Just like you, I get hurt when people are nearly almost brutalized. Bakit hindi ka magkuha? It's rain time. Malakas ang monsoon, southwest monsoon, dumadaan talaga sa Pilipinas. Gamitin mo utak mo, you should look for a gym. At bigyan mo lahat ng tao ng number. Hanggang dito lang po. Hanggang dito lang tayo, balik kayo itong bukas, from 15 to 20, kayo na naman bukas. Bigyan mo lang card. Prepare a card where you can, the marshal will go around the queuing na, bakit mo, hindi ko maintindihan, this media, hindi ko maintindihan, bakit gawain mo yan sa Pilipino? Yan ang tinatanong ko. Why do you have to do it to the Filipino? You can always, maghanap ka ng, there's always a gymnasium. Mga eskwelahan, walang klase ngayon. Bakit hindi mo gamitin doon? Bakit ka magkakanap ng isang tarantado? Kaya lang ako, well, it is to my chagrin, because gusto kong lumabas itong PSG lang na ito ang, sabihin ko sa inyo, huwag kayong magpresidente. Wala talagang, sabihin ko, maliit ang sweldo. Wala ka. If you're not there really for the, mag-corrupt ka dyan, well, it would make you a billionaire overnight. But kung magtrabaho ka lang ng ganito, ako presidente, gusto kong lumabas doon, sabihin ko, hoy, bakit ganito to? Bakit ganon kayo ka-stupido? I mean, the Filipino does not deserve it. Even if they are not paying taxes. Because the theory of government is that all money belongs to the people. And the money is there. It belongs to all of us. And it should be used for public good. But what is the use of public good if you are not good and stupid? So, ganun ang mangyayari sa Pilipino. I'm just letting off my... Kasi kung hindi lang talaga bawal, itong PSG, hindi ako pinapalabas. Sabi ko, magpunta ako na, sir, hindi pwede yan, hindi pwede. Kulong talaga ako. Magpresidente ka, totoo lang, you are a prisoner. You are brought here, kunyari ka pa, di chopper ka, di gwardya, patos uwi ka doon sa bahay mo. Tapos hindi ka na makalabas. Preso ka talaga. Tawagin mo ang security, yung gusto kong pumunta, sir, pasensya na. Tapos paggalitan mo, sabihin mo, sir, ang authority namin does not come from you. It comes from a law. So, kami ang masunod. Talagang, sige ka, perma, bunch of papers, if you read it, hanggang umaga, trabaho ka, sweldo mo, ganun lang. Just give me 219,000. Tapos ganun ang trabaho. Mag-isa ko. Butit ngayon, kaya nandito yung asawa ko at dito yung anak ko. Nabubuhay yung loob ko, mag-uwi ako sa bahay ngayon. Looking forward. Today is my last State of the Nation address. But this is by no means my swan song. I shall never cease to implore Congress to pass vital and critical legislation as well as to push the entire government to ensure nothing less than the full recovery and revitalization of our country. But to do this, it is necessary for us to first overcome the crippling fear, anxiety, and uncertainty that was caused by the threat of the COVID-19 virus. Well, I really do not know what to do. I have to listen to the task force. This is a group of people volunteering to be a collective advisor that would give you the advice collectively, if we put it that way, na sila ang magsabi. And we're just waiting for the word. I am referring to COVID-D, Delta. It is rampaging now in Indonesia, Thailand, India, and many parts of Asia. And Ang sabi doon sa the Western medicine says that it is far more aggressive and far more dangerous, and it can cause death easily than the COVID-19 original. So this is as good as any other time to say it. If says that it is really dangerous, you have to go back to lockdown. If there are many people in other parts of the world killing as many than Delta, if ever it will spread, we have it here now. I hope it will not go any further. But if something wrong happens, I'll have to be strict. And I have now my word that there will be, just like what happened in the early days. Kung ganun ang COVID, saan tayo pupunta? And if it requires a new vaccine, we do not have it yet. I don't know what, maybe we'll just have to pray for salvation. Sabihin natin, Diyos, we have done everything, but this time we are really put hard on these things that happen. Rest assured, we will exert every effort to ensure the lost livelihood of our affected countrymen. I have recently signed an executive order creating a task force that will shepherd.
At yan po ang News 5 special coverage sa huling State of the Nation address ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagsubaybay para po sa pagpapatuloy ng coverage sa huling Sona ng Pangulo. Tumutok po sa One News. Sa ngalan ni Edling Gao at Mayan Los Baños, ako po si Cheryl Cosim. Magandang gabi, Pilipinas.